My name is Reverend Dr. Pjae, and you are at Harmony Spiritual Center, in case you forgot who you were. That happens at this age for me. So the last week I talked about relaxing into it. So essentially just kind of relaxing into who you are already the divine. There's nothing that's going to take that away from you. What we are trying to do all the time is remember as we go, as we're involved in different situations, some that we may call difficult, family relationships, any number of things. But wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we are always spirit. And so we're just going to relax into that knowledge. We don't have to worry, we don't have to run around and try to find it any place. It is within you always, always. And that's really what we were talking about last week. The mind of God is within us. And all we have to do is remember. But this week I want to talk about tending to your spirit. Tending to your spirit. Because here's the thing, here's what I know, is that if we don't, it's like anything. Our relationships with significant others, with our children, parents, your school, if you want to get an education, whatever it is you want to do, you got to tend to it. You can't just put it on the back burner and think that it's going to be okay. It's not. Particularly when you're talking about dealing with other people, because everyone goes through things. And who you were with last week isn't going to show up the same this week. You're not going to show up the same. They're not either. And so we have to tend to that. Well, we have to tend to our spirit as well. We can't put it on autopilot because it's a constant reminding ourselves of the truth. Because everybody doesn't show up with the way that we think truth should look. Because the truth is, we are individualized expressions. But not everybody is remembering that at the same time you remember it. So they're not necessarily showing up the way you think truth or what God looks like. It looks like that to them, but it doesn't look like that to you. So you are constantly tending to your spirit in ways that help you remember to stop, to pause, to remember, to reflect. And so yesterday, we were, and thank you all, by the way, I meant to say that, I'll say it now and I'll say it again later. But the Feeding the Homeless, the annual Feeding the Homeless event that we do for my brother, Terry, who passed away, I think in 21, 22, and he was homeless as well. And so if it wasn't for these people who cared enough to go out and talk with and feed and shelter and clothe the homeless, my brother wouldn't have had anything. So we want to honor that, honor him, remember him, and we do that every year. And you all really showed up and showed out because I probably told this story, I'll tell you again because it's so funny. My sister and brother, the whole family, by the way, shows up. Just the grandkids, the nieces, my brother's ex-wives, his wives, his kids, his nieces, every grandkid, everybody shows up. And so it's just like a big family reunion as well as the homeless thing. But when we were, I was gathering up clothes from all the things that you guys had donated. My garage was full. It was full of suitcases and clothes and just everything. So my sister and brother, brother-in-law, because he's got a big truck, they were going to come pick the stuff up, take it to their house, sort it out. And so they called and said they were on the way, and I said, okay, great, well, just come on around, to the back. There's an alleyway, come on up to the back. And instead of opening the garage, they said, come on to the back. So they came up, and I opened the garage, and they got out of the truck, and they looked, and they saw this, oh my God. And they hardly couldn't get it into their truck, there was so much stuff. And they were by the way, he is a great packer. Whenever we're going someplace, he's the one, we just put everything out. You see that Lucy show, the I Love Lucy, where Ricky and Fred are trying to pack the car for a trip, and Lucy and Ethel keep bringing stuff out. They have to keep repacking. That's how we do it with my brother-in-law. We keep bringing stuff out. He's like, oh my God, take stuff back out, pack stuff anyway. So he's a great packer. He packed it all in. And then they came in for lunch, and then they told me, they said, wow, that was a lot of stuff. We were wondering, why is she making us go to the back? Is she embarrassed? She didn't want her to see us? And so they had this whole conversation going on about why I had them come to the back. They didn't realize that I had them come to the back because everything, they couldn't, why can't we go to the house? Why don't you want us to come front? And so that's the reason why. So, but I said all that to say this. The event was beautiful. We didn't come back with, shut up. Carla, I'm saying what we went to accomplish.
Yes.
What we wanted to accomplish was beautiful. It was a little bit disorderly because it wasn't the same way we normally do it. Normally it's just us. But we gathered, we went inside, number one, and number two, it was the other groups that were feeding the homeless, there were other groups, so we weren't all, meshed in terms of what we were doing, but it didn't matter, we knew what we were doing. And no matter what they were saying, we were gonna pass all that stuff out, and we didn't care if they took bags full, which they did, which I think they're just getting ready for the winter. And so they took a lot of things. My point is, thank you so much, and we showed up for that. Anyway, sidetracking.
Women's clothes next year.
What's clothes?
Women's clothes also.
Oh, right, women's clothes, okay, we're doing, because we didn't have any women's clothes, hardly, we're having, so we'll do that next year. But anyway, the whole tending to your spirit, it is about you showing up and remembering. You have to, on a regular basis, I'm not the one to say what regular looks like for you. Whatever regular looks like for you, that reminds you of who you are. For me, it is every single morning, before my foot touches the floor, I wake up and sit up in bed and pray and say thank you. The first thing's out of my mouth, thank you. I didn't have to wake up. None of us had to wake up, but I did. So I'm so grateful for that. I am surrounded by love. My neighbors, my community, my family, God. I'm surrounded by love. And so I'm thankful and grateful for that. Grateful for, and then I just say, this is what I'd like my day to unfold. Remind me, help me remember who I am. Help me remember my brothers and sisters and what they're going through. Help me show the love that you are, that you showed me. Help me do that, regardless of who's driving, regardless of what I run into, regardless of who's walking around at Walmart acting crazy, or at this moment, it doesn't matter. You don't act crazy. Help me, because you know how I can be. You're the Father. You know how I can be. So help me be more like you. That's me tending to spirit, tending to my spirit. So I'm telling you, we can't put it on autopilot. As good as you are, as big as your heart is, as much as you love God, and why you're here this morning to surround. Well, this is why we're here. We surround ourselves with other like minds, what I call partners in believing, PIBs. Partners in believing. That's who we are for each other. To remind each other of who we are, what we believe, and how we show up that way. And you guys did show up. That's why I was mentioning the homeless thing, because again, it was so much love, outpouring and help. Thank you so much for all of that. So we're just constantly reminding ourselves of who we are. The other thing I want to talk about, again, tending to spirit, and the reason why we do it for ourselves, so that we can show up as the person we say we are. God self, as we show up is that way. But also, I am a minister, I'm a counselor, I've always been this. I am the person, for whatever reason, that people come to talk. Because, well, I think the reason is because, not that my advice is all that good, it's because I'm not judgmental. Because Lord knows I've been through some crazy stuff. And Lord knows I don't always walk the straight path. I am walking as a human and as God, it's just like you all are doing. And I own that. I'm not acting like, I'm above all that stuff. I'm not. So I get a lot of people calling me, coming over, talking to me about what their concerns are, how they're showing up, and they're upset because they're not showing up the way they want to show up, or whatever it is. If I don't tend to my spirit, if I don't make sure that I wake up every morning and ask Spirit to be with me, the human side is going to show up when people are asking me stuff, right? The judgmental side, the side that said, what are you talking about? How did you do that? What were you thinking, right? How's that going to help? How's that going to help? So as we are tending to our spirit, it's for you, but it's also for how you want to show up for others. When people are asking me, what do I do about something? How do I know that? How does my human side know that? I don't. But every response is always from my God side. And you know what Spirit says to me to tell them every time? You already know what to do. That's all I actually say. I just assure them, assure you, you already know what to do. You already know what to do. So do that. What did you do before? How did you show up? Because I know how you show up. I know how you show up. You show up as love. So I'm just going to remind you, what does love look like in this situation? Not what does ego look like, but what does love look like? How do you want to bring that? That's all. What else can I tell you? All I can do is be a partner in believing with you, not for you, with you. Remind you of who you are. Remind you of what you know. Remind you that it is okay, more than okay, for you to come from your heart and do what your heart says do, not what your ego says do, because the ego gets in the way. I want to read this quote. I love this quote. This is from the movie, The American President. And he says this, he's at a conference or whatever, he's talking about what it's like to be an American. He said, America isn't easy. It is advanced citizenship. You gotta want it bad because it's gonna put up a fight. It's gonna say, you want free speech? Let's see you acknowledge a man or a woman whose words make your blood boil, who's standing center stage and advocating at the top of his lungs that which you would spend a lifetime opposing at the top of yours. That is the same thing. The reason why I bring that's the same thing, commitment we bring to seeing God in everyone. We are talking about, I was talking with Bill and Barb and my sister and brother, we're gonna go to a class in Dallas, and you all invited, whoever wants to go. And it's called Triumph Over Trauma. Triumph Over Trauma. And it is about forgiveness. It is about the work that we have to do and how do we do it, and the wisdom of forgiveness. We were talking about that this morning. The wisdom of forgiveness, not for the other people. It's not about them. It's about you. Bill just talked about carrying something for 45 years. That is a long time. I've carried things. Every one of us has carried things for a long time, and the only person it bothers, the only person it affects is you. Because do you believe, do you understand that the person you can't forgive doesn't even remember you most of the time? Isn't thinking about you at all? But you carry that in your heart. And it stops you. It's a place in your heart where you can't hold more love. So the forgiveness is for you. It's for me. So that I can show up as the love I say I am. As the God self I say I am. So you can show up that way. So that's what we're doing here. It's our spirituality is a choice that we make. If it's easy, everybody would be walking around being spiritual and say, God bless you, child. Bless you. Bless you. No, people aren't walking around doing that. And we have to be able to say that and mean that to the people who at the top of our lungs, we would oppose what they are doing. But it's not what they are doing. It's not what people are doing, it's who they are. Who we know them to be, even if they're not showing up that way. Do you understand that? God is. That's our sign. God is, each and every one of us. Everybody that we run into, I don't care what they do. I don't care what they've done. It doesn't matter. Because they didn't know the truth about themselves. That's why people can do that. They don't know the truth about themselves. They don't know that they're okay already. They don't know that. That's ours to do. If this is the life you want to walk down, it's the road you want to be on. Loving people, showing up as the God self, having forgiven. Having forgiven, because again, it's for you. It's never about someone else. It's always about you, so you can hold more love. And I was asking, earlier, why is it that people talk to me? The reason I believe people talk to me, because I'm not judgmental, because I absolutely do see who you are, beyond the behavior. Beyond the behavior. I'm sympathetic to your case because I know what it's like to be a human being. I know what it's like because I am one. I'm not standing above anything. I'm just choosing and deciding. And that's what we all get to do. We get to choose and we get to decide. So tending to your spirit is about you, and it's about showing up as the God self you know yourself to be, to remind yourself, to practice, to remind yourself every day, and if need be, every hour. If need be, when we were there yesterday, there was some gentleman, there was two, so I'm not going to do what I did there yesterday. I need to forgive myself for that. There was a woman on a microphone, just loud, and just telling everybody what to do. And no one is paying attention. Right? Because everybody's doing what they're doing.
When they're holding the food off while these people are sitting there.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Just, and these people came to eat and to get some clothes. So just let them eat and get some clothes. Why do they gotta do it the way why do they gotta sit down before you shut up? This,
Went on and on and on.
So, so I had some judgmental things myself going on, and I recognize that. And no matter what my reason for being upset, doesn't matter what the reason is. I don't need to judge that person. So we went ahead and did what we're gonna do. Everybody does what they're gonna do. You don't need to judge them, it doesn't matter. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. What are you gonna do? That's the only question you need to ask yourself. What am I here for? Who do I say I am? And that's what matters. Show up as you. Tend to your spirit. Be the person you want to see in the world, right? Be the person you want to see in the world. That's all we get to do. And that's enough. That's yours to do. Be you. Be you. So it is.